The next presentation is the one I'm really, really looking forward to. We've had I really had the pleasure of getting a sneak peek into what's coming during the lunch break. We've all been perplexed by what the world is going to look like in the years to come, but more importantly, what our world is going to look like. So the important factor in that is your own outlook, your own perspective, your dreams and aspirations. As you navigate your way through, it is about empowering yourself to actually unleash your own true potential. Finding that right mix with the right organization, the enablers, the leaders, that is how, first and foremost, you tap into your own true potential and perhaps bring the same, and create the impact and influence that you would want in life. So this one is actually titled as Driving Digital Transformation Through Empowering People. And empowerment and digital transformations are very exclusively loaded, heavy phrases, have a number of things that link to it. And we have just the right person to deliver this address and delve into the insights. Ladies and gentlemen, she is, of course, the CEO of Abacus Consulting Technology Private Limited. Please join me in welcoming the phenomenal Fatima Asad Said. Also, as Fatima makes her way up here, I may request you all to keep it a little down. We've become a little more chatty after lunch. I think that's the good lunch talking. But as a courtesy to all our presenters and speakers, may I request you to kindly keep it quiet. You can continue making an impact on social media, as since morning, half an hour into the conference, we've been either the second or the third trending hashtag from Pakistan. So keep up the great work. Over to you.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, and thank you for that generous introduction, Sidra. Always a pleasure to be back here at Nashel Events. Thank you, Asfar, thank you, Rabia, Kashif, the amazing team behind all of this. And I really must give you a round of applause. Please join me, because this is a recurring feature and it is making Pakistan proud. Thank you once again. Could I have the presentation, please? Oh, it is there. I didn't see that. So, we've deliberated and we've heard phenomenal leaders before in the morning session. Thank you, Professor Francis, for that very important perspective on globalization, because that is a challenge that is facing. After decades of focusing on globalization, there is a paradigm shift. And what does that mean for organizations? What does it mean for nations? And what does it mean for the human resource, us as the people, wherever you may be, whichever organization that you represent? And that is a factor that is challenging us all. When we talk about empowerment, at the same time, parallel the challenges in a post-pandemic world, that is where my conversation is going to be, where it's going to be centered around. And leaving you with hopefully a few thoughts to ponder over as you go back to your respective organizations and institutions, and even at an individual level. So the recalibration that is taking place, a bit on the studies that are now emerging in terms of what's next for organizations, and in this case, I refer to a Mercer's study recently published, which is the Talent Trends of 2022, and a sneak peek, an overview, a strategic overview of what is next as we calibrate digital transformation with empowerment of people. So when we talk about post-pandemic challenges, what we see is organizations that are emerging stronger and better and more vibrant are those who have channelized their energies towards ensuring that not only their strategic frameworks, but the human capacity and their capability is aligned towards ensuring business resilience, adaptability, technology enablement, and last but not the least, the well-being of their people. And that will ensure that the organizations remain, I'm sorry, this is not working, relevant and sustainable. How many of you at leadership positions at all levels are having that conversations within your organizations? Just a show of hands about being relevant right now in 2022. And sustainability. So we have more individuals and more professionals who are thinking the sustainability approach, but how many of us are challenging the way we are doing business? How many of us are actually challenging, okay, how do we stay relevant, not only today, but 10 years from now, 15 years from now? And what is it that the post-pandemic world is throwing at us? The challenges are endless. With inflation on a global level, the supply chain disruptions, climate change, what the Honorable Federal Minister spoke about earlier this morning as well, geopolitical tensions, market volatility, also the evolving governance models at the national level as well as at the organization level. And this is something that we need to collaborate to not only review and reassess, but also to come up with a roadmap which will allow us to solve these problems. There is much more talk on what the problems are, but not enough on what are the solutions and how can we make that happen. And of course, I'm making a general statement. There are organizations who are fundamentally raising the bar and coming out as winners. So we also have the DE&I, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion mandate, as we all know. We talk about the mobile workforce. We talk about the demographics in organizations like the millennials, multicultural, robotic environments, RPAs, also dovetailing themselves into the processes and procedures of how organizations operate. And of course, the multi-generational organization. At this point in time, there are 5 generations, from the baby boomers to the millennials and the Gen Zs, who are in active form within organizations. And look at the diversity of values, of thought, of ideas, of behaviors, of attitudes. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the real challenge. We all talk about the great resignation. I call it the great recalibration or reassessment, really, because we are rethinking constantly. The risk register, as far as I'm concerned as a business leader, is sort of, it just continues on, because every day is a new day which brings in myriad of challenges. But how are we addressing those? How are we developing adaptable technologies, adaptive technologies, innovative technologies, but also adaptable cultures in order to handle the challenges of a multicultural organization? And the 3 elements which need much more focus is social justice, equality, and greater collaboration. This is what, ladies and gentlemen, the next generation is also asking for. When they shift towards the way they work, rethinking the way they work, whether it is the freelancers, whether it is the gig economy, whether it is when you are outsourcing resources from within your organization, from providing them flexible ability to work with other organizations on collaborative platforms. The rethink of organization design is driven also firmly at the governance level by the DE&I mandate. So if we look at the challenges for the HR function, and I think it is firmly on the business function, these are the enablers which are allowing organizations, business leaders to take better decisions. Because in this world, in this digitally connected world, each one of us has a smart device. Is that right? Show of hands. Who does not have a smart device? Oh, we have one person. Well, I'm sure you'll hopefully join the bandwagon very quickly, because we cannot avoid what is happening. So, and this particular connectivity is giving data to organizations, to business leaders, to make better, sounder, timely, relevant decisions. And if this is not part of the DNA of your organizations, then you are not enabling your people. You are not empowering your people in order to sustain and remain relevant as organizations. So I connect this back to the rise of the relatable organization. This is a study that Mercer has conducted, which I mentioned earlier as well. And it had 11,000 participants across the globe. 22% were from the C-suite, just to give you an indication of the demographics, and represented high-growth companies. We also had HR leaders who have spent 23% of their time in the business, and they've just moved into HR. So you have a good thought process from a strategy business perspective, as well as an HR perspective. And then, of course, the employees. And interestingly enough, if you look at the demographics, it's not just the permanent employees. It's about those who are working remotely, those who are working in a hybrid option. Organizations are already moving into that particular framework and allowing those options, a menu of how do you want to work with organizations. That much I know. Already we have in various parts of the world where employee contracts are being revisited, where the employee, the supply factor, is demanding that they have the flexible hours. They are having it put down into their contracts that 2 days they would like to work remotely. So are we cognizant of this change? And then how does it impact productivity as we go forward? So what does the C-suite really thinking about? What are the challenges that keep us awake at night? Cyber risk and data security right at the top of the list. Show of hands of those who have a strategy of how do you mitigate cyber risk and data security at the governance level, at the C-suite level, at the IT level. Okay, so there's much more to be done. And the good news is there are leaders amongst us and organizations amongst us who have already demonstrated that they've taken the lead in ensuring that they mitigate this risk going forward. In a digitized world, if we are providing that device to our people, allowing them to work remotely, allowing them to balance their lifestyles, because that's what the next generation is asking, a healthier, more balanced lifestyle. Not that all of us don't want that, but that is a significant shift that is already taking place in terms of how the next generation is working. So cybersecurity and data security, cyber risk and data security becomes one of the foremost challenges of ensuring sustainability for an organization. I'm sorry, there's a bit of a lag in digital acceleration. The 2 years, I think it was the CEO of Microsoft which said that the pace of change in the technology enablement digital environment that was really went forward and on light year speed was the pandemic. And if we don't recognize that, then again, we will not remain relevant. And then relooking the work models. It's not just about new ways of working, but it's also engaging how are we working? What is the collaboration? For example, silos or typical even lean structures of an organization will not cut it. It's about working in tandem with each other, creating teams which are collaborating and partnering within the organization, and of course, business resilience. So the concerns are hiring the right talent, high employee absences, which impact productivity, whether it's for health reasons or whether the great resignation has impacted individuals leaving the organizations, even though Currently, some data is coming in and saying some individuals have continued to stay with the organizations and chosen to because their organizations in tough times hung on to them. They said, you work with us in tough times, we will take care of you, we will invest with you, and then they are here as the organization takes off post-pandemic. There's digital exhaustion and loss of talent and managing a more cross-border workforce. So what we see is, heavily, as data shows us, there's a greater investment in technology, and there's a shift in focus from workforce planning to skill building, reskilling, upskilling within the organization. So don't build or buy, don't buy or borrow, build within the organization. Upskill your resources, rather than saying, we don't have this skill set, and how will we know? It is the leveraging on technology platforms which are integrated, which will allow us to have access to that repository. AI-based productivity tools, this is where the investment is now taking place for organizations which are already spearheading into the future. And of course, listen to your employees more than ever now. And the internal talent marketplace is extremely critical of shuffling where individuals are. It is not the regular career stream. So the next steps, ladies and gentlemen, is fourfold. Driving digital transformation is engagement of the digital employee experience. We talked about the customer experience, but the heart and soul of every organization is the human factor. How are we ensuring that their health and their well-being is also accounted for as they demand better lifestyles as well? The digital pandemic is also allowing the hybrid working to be successful. However, organizations have to bring in monitoring and productivity tools to ensure that performance does not slip, and it enables data security of wherever an employee might be. The third element is a frictionless environment. That means open and transparent. How many of us can truly commit or also speak that particular perspective that their culture within their organization is open and transparent enough in order to ensure that there is equitable as well as fair matching of what their skill set is? And that is what digital platforms allow people to do in terms of their empowerment, to bring in the ideas, to innovate. And the last is digital collaboration. I do apologize, but there's a bit of a lag with the... So the 5 elements to create the relatable organization is, 1, of course, becoming more human at the heart of how we are transforming. 2, challenging the notions of how we are working and reskilling, extremely important. Then investing, those organizations which are investing to enable their people to have greater energy, to be more innovative, to bring in those ideas and be problem solvers, requires a culture shift and a mindset shift. And of course, the vision behind making that happen for work and the workplace to unlock that potential and accessing that potential. So to wrap it up, what we see is resetting the stakeholders, whether it is your shareholders, your customers, your suppliers, and of course, your employees. How will they be aligned and how will they stay relevant? How do we ensure that the DNA of the organization is building adaptive capability, figuring out how partnerships work? That is, ladies and gentlemen, a shift. I would encourage you to have a look at this particular study because that shift is about creating partnerships within the organization at all levels and walk away from the silos that emerge. And that is something that we are working towards within our own organization as well. It's about greater collaboration across the 11 businesses that represent Abacus, across technology and the outsourcing and the consulting, and how do we engage further? So not only are our people provided greater opportunities and a greater value proposition and employee experience, but how does that impact the clients and the partners we work with? Then there is the health and total well-being of individuals within our organization, and of course, incentivizing employability. The minute you start committing to upskilling and reskilling, you're also encouraging employability. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world which has to harness the energy for the collective good. And that can only happen through collaboration and creating an organization which is building a digital world for humans. So continue to listen, be empathetic, collaborate, and build a better future for the next generation. Thank you.